Emergency pod, Andy Lou. The Warriors have officially named a successor to Bob Myers. Per Adrian Wojnarowski at 5 a.m.
It's a good pick.
Mike Dunleavy will be the new GM of the Golden State Warriors.
Who's the Mike Dunleavy? Who's Mike Dunleavy?
Obviously, Mike Dunleavy.
Oh no. You're not gonna say Tom.
Obviously, in this analogy, Mike Dunleavy is Tom Womgams taking over, which of course means
I'm the eldest boy. I am the eldest boy. And it matters.
Do you think Kirk did that this morning?
So the news broke at 5 a.m. Kirk goes into Joe's office. And actually, no, bedroom. Yeah, let's assume they're in the same. Goes into Joe's bedroom this morning. Oh, man. That is hey, look, if there is one thing about Mike Dunleavy, hey, pull that picture back up again of old Mike, our good friend, our old friend. Real Warriors fans know Mike Dunleavy Jr. The one thing about Mike Dunleavy Jr., if there's one thing I know that he can do, that Bob Myers can do, that man's got great hair. He's got great hair. I mean, he might lose it, but he's got great hair.
Yeah, he's in his 40s, not a single gray. As someone who's not even to their 40s yet and is fighting this battle, I'm more impressed by it every day. I look at Bob's hair and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That dude's pushing 50 and it's still just the full head, no grays. And we know Joe's texting him at 5 a.m. Like, how has he not gone gray? But, if they posted an ad for GM on Indeed, it seems like qualifications are like 6'7" or taller, full head of hair, multi-positional player, good passer, got to be a point forward in the front office. Joe Lacob is like Klay Thompson. He's just thirsty for shots at all times. He's going to be texting you at all hours. So I need someone who can really a connective player, We're looking for an Iguodala type of GM here, right? Although I don't know, is Andre losing his hair? I don't know. He might not be.
Yeah, I think he's bald, right? I think Andre's a different story.
Yeah, both him and Draymond are trending that way. But anyway, so we joke about the succession thing, but high level thoughts. None of this is surprising, right? The only thing that was surprising to me is it took until the 16th of June for this to come out. I think I was texting you earlier this week and I was like, kind of weird. They haven't announced it yet. That doesn't feel great, because Bob announced he was stepping away 3 weeks ago right? And anyone plugged in with the team is like, they're probably just going to elevate Mike and Kirk. They'll probably make Mike the top guy and Kirk will get, kind of elevated influence. But those guys were already kind of the number 2 and the number 3 anyway. So how much is really changing? And it took them a couple weeks to get here, but yeah, we're here.
Yeah, with a week before draft. I mean, less than a week at this point. We're doing this on a Friday. Should be coming out on Friday night, and it's a little weird. I don't know if I'm worried or concerned because it feels like if it's Mike Dunleavy, then he's probably been doing this job for weeks now, right? It's
yeah.
I would assume it's like any other corporate job. When you get promoted for something, you probably had already been doing it for a couple weeks. I mean, everybody's always salty. Maybe they feel like they should have gotten paid before. So maybe the holdup here was that they were negotiating contract, if I had to guess. But he was probably doing the thing anyway.
If I was to guess, I'm sure Joe threw a lower figure at him because, he's not experienced. He's not a 4-time champ like Bob, all that sort of stuff. And Mike probably under the guidance of Joe was like, I can get a little more money out of him if I just am non-committal for a little bit. So end of the day, we ended up here and we know these guys have been hyper involved in all the draft stuff anyway. It would have been really weird if they didn't announce it before the draft. And then we were getting to the situation where Bob's leaving on July 1st and they haven't done anything,
That
So
would be a shocker. That would be. Whew.
yeah, so it's like it's good that they checked off the box. Now on to Mike. Now I guess we can talk about him, but you mentioned it and I've talked about it. My first reaction every time I see Mike Dunleavy is to think about how much we all hated him as a player. You know, like he was in some ways like the avatar for the shittiness that was the Cohan era. I think as I get older, it's not really fair to him. It's just more that like, you know, Yao Ming gets drafted, they take him third after Yao, even though they're, you know, they had a worse record and the Warrior fans thought they could get Yao Ming, that sort of thing. And you watch him play, and it's pretty clear, you know, he's not Larry Bird. You're not going to save the franchise, you know? And then he took shots at the fans saying, like, they shouldn't boo him.
Yeah.
And so he was just like, you know, I mean, you know, it's like when you root for a crappy team, like most of the anger is truly like you're mad at shitty ownership, but someone's got to take it on the court, whether it's a coach or a player.
Yeah, look, you got to be a little bit of an older. I'm not a super old Warriors fan, but like I was coherent at that time, and I was like the first time I started watching Warriors basketball, dude, I hated him, man. I mean, I was a lot younger then, but I hated him. It was just this guy is supposed to be the guy that's I remember the Murphy. I mean, we joke with Dunkirk, but like him and Troy Murphy were both. You know, they ended up Dunleavy ended up being a good basketball player towards the end of his career, way further out than his Warriors career, which was only like 4 seasons, I think. But yeah, as a Warrior, he was terrible. He was awful. He was a role player miscast as a star, kind of like Andre Iguodala. Just Andre was way better at all those things. Just miscast as a star player. So I think if you're an older Warriors fans in your 30s, you definitely remember Mike Dunleavy,
40s.
And it is weird. 40s, 50s. It is odd that the circle comes around to that he's now the GM of the Warriors. Now, part of me is like, does he feel this doesn't even matter? But I'd be curious. Does he feel any type of not remorse, but does he have any feelings towards his tenure as a Warrior? Or just does he not care? Is he just, well, I was Bob Myers' friend, I got hired, and this is the quickest way I could be a GM, right? Like maybe that's all he cares about, and I want to do a good job. Or is he like, you know what I mean? Like, or is he like, oh,
or does he want that like redemption story where it's like, I want to prove to all them that they were wrong about me. Like maybe I wasn't the star player, but I could be the star executive.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Maybe
he doesn't give a shit, but I wonder if he thinks about that at all. He's certainly his press conference is on Monday. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I don't know. He's also a lifer. Like his dad was a coach. I tend to think he's just a basketball guy through and through, you know, like, I don't know if he thinks too much about like, yeah, those 5 years I spent in Golden State were rough. You know, he might just get a laugh out of it. Like, man, when I played, this was a joke organization. Now we're like deep pockets and like one of the, 3-4 like premier organizations. Like who knows? Like it's going to be interesting to get to know him because he's kind of been on the periphery, at least in terms of the public eye. And you hear things about him, and most of the things you hear about him suggest that, the fans will like his basketball vision. He seems like a guy who really values multi-positional versatility, shooting, IQ, all the things that he kind of was as a player, all the things that kind of define the Warriors when they're good, those type of things. Now it's a question of like, will he get those players? How good is like everyone can say they like it on paper. What matters is if you can make it happen, right?
Can you identify the people that can do that? I mean, he was the one that drafted Jordan Poole, and you know how I feel about Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole is a hit. He is 28th pick, an absolute hit. He's going to be, I think, a very good player somewhere else next season. But man, that's a great way to kind of, I think, and maybe part of that is PR. Maybe Bob's just kind of saying like, hey, he was the guy that did it. But as far as we know, Mike Dunleavy's the guy that drafted Jordan Poole, and he now has the keys to the kingdom. You would think.
And I seem to recall he was known for being very high on guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Devin Vassell in the Wiseman draft. Now, you never know if it's just like, I like that guy. That doesn't mean he would have took him number 2 or he would have done anything different than Bob. But like, if those are player assessments of, hey, these guys are good. I mean, it's a good assessment, right? That sort of thing. So it's like, that's not to say Bob didn't like those guys. That's not to say Lacob didn't like those guys. They clearly made the determination they liked Wiseman's upside more than trading down for those guys. Which, you know, we've relitigated enough times. But we'll see. So I think that, you know, it's I'm not negative on this. I think we'll find out over the next 12 to 18 months if this works. Because my honest feeling is this could go two ways. It could be like the Celtics, where, you know, Ainge ran its course, but they went internal with Stevens, and they have their own issues, but I personally just don't think they have a superstar. Like, that's a bigger issue. But like, their continuity is working that way. Or it could go like kind of how the Giants went with Sabian to Evans. You know, they promoted within, and that guy just didn't work out. And then they're finally like, you know what? We got to go external, you know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I look at someone like, you know, if Dunleavy works, it's great. They're going to keep the pipeline coming through the front office. If Dunleavy is a flop, you know, he makes a terrible trade that ends the dynasty and they're in this negative situation, I would be surprised if the next hire isn't like go get like a Daryl Morey outside or something like that, right?
Correct. I'm going to one-up you, though. I think we find out in 6 days how this tenure is going to go. Real fast. Real fast.
You think draft night? I'm willing to give him 6 weeks, get through free agency. But
no, as in that how this tenure is going to go for Mike Dunleavy. I think we're going to find out in 6 days who he is. If they stand pat at 19, I'm going to sit across from you and tell you that, yeah, there's really no difference here between him and Bob, most likely. There's just, they're going to kind of do.
If he goes to the podium and cries about this guy's life story that they heard over pizza.
You know what I mean? No, tell me that he speaks Japanese or something. No, right? So, but if he swings a trade, you know, he swings a trade Wednesday, I'm gonna sit here and I don't know if it'll work, but I'm gonna say it's a brand new. You talked about kind of the more aggressive approach. It's a brand new regime, right? So, if they trade up, I don't actually know what to say. We'll deal with it when we get there. Or if they trade down, they trade out. So I do think we find out in 6 days, like what the hell are we going to get from Mike Dunleavy Jr.? It's going to happen fast. Results, I don't know of what happens, but
sure. I might hate it, but yeah.
They have the opportunity. You talked about Devin Vassell and Tyrese Halliburton. They have the opportunity to draft that version of player if they want to, either at 19 or if they want to trade up to 12, right? Because that's where Vassell and
sure.
Tyrese were kind of at. So
every draft, there's a handful of guys who get picked in the teens who can play immediately. That's the job. Be the guy who figures out which one of these guys can actually be that guy, right? Like, it's saying the draft is a crapshoot. I think it's kind of BS to say it's a crapshoot because certain teams seem to always make the right decision and other teams seem to kind of not, you know?
Oh, I mean, OKC's real good at it, right? OKC hits year in, year out. Right? So.
Yeah, they're no one bats 1,000, but you know, they're leading the league in batting average. I'll put it that way on the draft. I think, and the other notable thing, and we've been talking about this, and we're going to do a lot of pods between now and free agency, just because it seems like it's going to be a very active period for the Warriors. The most notable thing right now is their name's out there a lot, and I'm not used to the Warriors' name being out there a lot with Bob Myers in charge. Jonathan Givony put it out there in his mock draft, and then he said it on the low post. You hear from everyone the Warriors are being super aggressive in talks. They're talking to everyone. Seems like they want to swing something. They're letting everyone know we want win now players, enough with the 2 timeline stuff. You know, whether that's reading between the lines, like that's what he is saying. And then friend of the show, KOC, who's actually going to come on Sunday night, was saying he's hearing they're like exploring trading out of the pick. I think those are two sides of the same conversation, to be honest. But I think those are two people who do pretty good reporting. At minimum, we could say the Warriors seem way more active than they have in the past. And maybe that's a Dunleavy thing. Maybe that's like, you know what? The pragmatic stand pat approach, that's not for me. I'm looking at this roster. If we run this back and just go sign a vet minimum, we're going to be like 3 games better it's not really going to make a difference. I need to look at this in a, bigger picture lens, and maybe that's where they land here.
I do think maybe it's more of the latter. I think they're in a situation where they have to be aggressive with some of these moves, some of these trades versus where they're at a couple years ago. But again, like we said, the same thing 2 years ago, and they didn't do jack shit, and they just signed Otto Porter and Nemanja Bjelica, and then went ahead and won the championship. So, maybe they end up doing that again, but you've got to bat 1,000 on some of those moves, right? Actually, they didn't even bat 1,000. I mean, they still had Wiseman on the team who ended up getting hurt. So it was kind of, it wasn't lucky, but yeah.
You can always say with Bob Myers, he didn't make a lot of moves, but the big ones he made were slam dunks. Iguodala, slam dunk. Kevin Durant, slam dunk. D'Lo for Wiggins, slam dunk. He's not, he didn't do the Daryl Morey every trade deadline I'm doing stuff thing. But when he made his moves, they were killer moves. Let's see what Dunleavy has. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Yep. Speaking of 2 years ago, around this time 2 years ago, you and I were potting about every potential player they could trade for. I believe it was Bradley Beal week this time of year. Where are we back to now? It's always Bradley Beal week on the Light Years pod. So I want to put a plug here. You guys should subscribe to our friends at Dub Nation HQ. They do it's a Substack newsletter. Every morning, Warriors content. They aggregate stories. They write original stuff. You guys probably know all the writers. They're all old school Golden State of Mind writers back from when Andy wrote there, Eric Apricot, Nate, Punk Basketball, those guys. Like it aligns with, I think, how most of our listeners probably consumed Warriors content 12, 15 years ago. The newsletter is excellent. It's fun. And we're going to be doing some stuff with them. And so today's newsletter, they aggregated kind of all the free agency and trade talk stuff that's been going on. And the popular one is Bradley Beal's going to get traded. And a few people have been posing Beal to the Warriors. I get it. Why? Bradley Beal's game would thrive in Steve Kerr's system. Undoubtedly, whatever you think the best version of Bradley Beal is, motion offense, cutting, moving, like that's going to bring it, right? God, you really hate Bradley Beal.
I have a new take. I'm coming up with brand new takes. That's why I have a new one today, Sam. So
awesome. Anyway, so I get why his name's out there. Unclear if the Warriors view it this way, because the negative to Bradley Beal is the Wizards gave him a putrid contract. And it's just like one of those things where it's like acquiring him will make you thinner on the back end of your roster. So the proposed trade is Klay Thompson and Kuminga for Bradley Beal. All right. Where are you at with something like this, Andy?
All right. So last show we talked about why I wouldn't do the Bradley Beal trade. This show, my new perspective on this, because for the life of me, I couldn't understand why guys like Jay Williams, Bill Simmons. I woke up this morning, I was listening to Bill Simmons, and he brings up the Beal trade to the Warriors twice. I'm trying to figure out why national media keeps bringing up Bradley Beal to the Warriors. Bradley, because 2 years ago when me and you talked about it, nobody talked about it. Nobody cared. It wasn't a thing.
He also hadn't got that huge contract. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, now why are they talking about it repeatedly? Why to the Warriors? To me, it feels like Bradley Beal just wants to be a Warrior. When stuff like this comes out, I think it's just Bradley Beal's camp trying to push him to a team that we know Bradley Beal wants to win, or maybe we think we know Bradley Beal wants to win. And the team that he feels like he can put over the hump, the Warriors, who could not score against the Lakers, and the reason why they ended up losing in the second round, Bradley Beal probably feels like I can be a lot better than what Jordan Poole provided. I can be a lot better than what Klay Thompson provided. I can be that guy. It feels like that's what Bradley Beal wants. I'm unsure if that's what the Warriors want for obvious reasons. I definitely wouldn't do it for Klay, though. But you can convince me of Jordan Poole and a pick, but I don't. Why would the Wizards do that? They're still getting money back. Do you have to throw in Kuminga? The type of stuff, right? Like maybe pulling Kuminga, but
so first off, doing it for Klay would not would not how do I put this? Mean you're not moving Poole in a different trade either way, because my general feeling on Bradley Beal is Beal. There, 3 guards have scored over 30 points a game in the last like 5 years. Obviously, Steph, Dame, and Brad Beal. You got Brad Beal and Steph Curry. That's better offense than Steph and Clay. That's more shot creation. That's higher level scoring. Now, you could argue it might not be a better overall team, and I'm not willing to disagree with you there, but like, if you have someone like that, you probably don't need a 6-man who's looking for as many shots as someone like Jordan Poole. So
Yeah, okay.
I could see the argument where they'll be more of a big 2 type of team. It's like those 2, and you're trying to get more guys like Wiggins and Draymond who just connect the whole thing. I could see something like that making sense. My big question with Bradley Beal is the last 2 years, he's only averaged 23 points, and he only played 90 games over 2 years. Is that because the Wizards are garbage and he's getting shut down and they just don't care to compete? And like, quite frankly, a lot of the same things that we would have said you could say about Wiggins in Minnesota, right? He wasn't inspired, that sort of thing. Or is he like most guards, just kind of on a downward trajectory? He turned 30 this year. Yeah, he averaged 30 points per game 3 years ago. Is he beyond his best years? You know what I'm saying? I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but like, if you think he is a player who, it's like the Wiggins situation, it's a dumpster fire and no one's trying, and you get him in a Warriors situation where stakes matter and you could bring the best out of him, I'm intrigued by that. If you tell me there's some underlying physical stuff and his hammy's always an issue and that sort of stuff, I want nothing to do with that, because all that tells me is you're about to have an expensive dude who's missing a bunch of time and all those issues. And say what you want about how Clay finished the season. I'm not worried about Clay's body, even after 2 injuries. That dude is an Iron Man in terms of always being on the court. When, like, literally the only times he's not on the court is if a tendon is torn or if like Rick Celebrini's like, we're forcing you to sit. So yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I agree with you. He's not my first choice, but if the price gets so low that you're not even including future picks, like it's literally just give them one prospect.
And expiring.
And an
like throw in Moody or something. Okay. Or
like Kuminga. Yeah. Like literally just Kuminga and one of your big contracts, Clay or Poole. You have to at minimum consider it, because that's not like Brad Beal is not the guy you give like, all right, I'm going to give you 3 firsts and all this sort of stuff. But like, if the price is that low, it's intriguing.
I mean, not with that contract, but but okay. True. So I think I would do you could convince me Poole and Kuminga, but you mentioned something at the top of your take there. If you do Clay for Beal, and I don't know why the Wizards do that. Maybe throwing a pick, and then you can move Poole and Kuminga somewhere else for. And some more picks for an OG Anunoby. Now you've got your 2 creators. You've got 2, 3, 4 great defenders with Wiggins and OG, Draymond, and then Looney, right? Exactly. So now you've got
throw GP2 into there. 5 great defenders.
Sorry,
yeah.
Wow. I'm missing on GP2. Maybe you have to throw GP2 in the mixed salaries match. I don't know, but let's say GP2 still on the team. You've got 5 great defenders, and then you've got 2. You've got 1 all-time shot creator, and then you've got, like you said, one of the best shot creators in the NBA, and Bradley Beal. When he's healthy, you assume he's healthy. He's only 29. I guess that he's just been sitting. If I had to guess, he's just been sitting out games because the team sucks. Any little nagging injury, he's just going to say that he's out. If I had to guess.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. Nothing about the Washington Wizards experience like inspires dudes to kill themselves, right? Like to play. So I don't know. That's
into that shot roster construction though. What you just said, like it's a lot of movement. But is that a championship team? Maybe.
It's a talent upgrade.
Yes,
they come together. Yeah, and we do know this is not a hidden thing. Both Steph and Draymond wanted Beal 2-3 years ago when we were talking like, do they make the pick or do they trade the pick? That sort of thing. They wanted Bradley Beal. They respect his game. Now, it's been over 2 years. Right. They could also be like, yeah, maybe you just want to get buckets and like chill, you know, like, so maybe their perspectives change, but like, I understand the appeal of him. He is a pure 3-level scorer. He can pass the ball. He can move off ball when he wants to. Like, he has the traits of someone who plays like their player. It's just a question of, is his body right? And does he want to do it? Right.
Yeah. Does he defend? Can he close with? Because again, there's so many questions. I think, Sam, I think you've talked me into there are different routes here. I think I'd do that, kind of see what Poole and Kuminga can get us, see if you can get off the Clay contract, or see if Poole and Kuminga get you Beal. Anyway, God, we're doing this again. I've talked myself back into
time back into it. We're trading 2 years ago. Should we trade the number 7 pick for Bradley Beal? Nope. Take Kuminga. Now, should we trade Kuminga for Bradley? Time is really a circle.
It's fucking never.
We're going to end it there. Appreciate everyone. We'll be back. A lot of stuff from us the next 2 weeks. Hopefully good stuff.